Welcome to the Viking Age podcast. Thank you for tuning in right here on the Viking Age YouTube channel. Subscribe, like, do everything. I'm botching the intro right now. My name is Chris Schad. I'm joined by my co-host Adam Patrick. We do this every Monday and Thursday night where we talk about everything revolving around your favorite football team, the Minnesota Vikings. Adam, how's your combine weekend, man?
Good. I didn't really watch too much of it. I saw the highlights of the giant people running really fast, in almost nothing. But I'm feeling pretty good today because tonight I'm gonna go see the new Batman movie, so I'm pretty pumped about
Uh,
that.
You
Yeah.
see, the combine was not my highlight of the weekend either because
Oh, I know.
AEW put on
Yeah,
another banger of a pay-per-view
they did.
with
They did.
Revolution.
They did.
But yes,
That
I
that
love
face
their
that
names too.
that face turn. It was a good one.
What? Oh, Wardlow?
Yeah.
Or who are you talking about?
Yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, where he gave CM Punk the ring
The
after the
the
dog collar match. For those
the
of you who don't
whoopsies.
speak wrestling,
Yeah.
a dog collar match is where they put a literal dog collar around each other's neck and they have a chain and they beat each other with a chain for like 40 minutes. It's very bloody, but it's very awesome. Don't knock it till you try it. Um, let's get started. Let's talk about some Viking stuff because we just had some Viking news break just before we came on the air. The
Mhm.
Vikings are parting ways with head trainer Eric Sugarman after 16 years, highly regarded within the organization overall. The good, he oversaw Adrian Peterson's return from when he completely shredded his knee in 2011, I want to say, because he came back in 2012 and won the
Mhm.
MVP. And
Mhm.
then Teddy Bridgewater's leg, he winds up coming back too. So a lot of people like him. The bad, there is some here. He was named in a 2008 lawsuit for trying to convince players to use Toradol, which is a
Mhm.
painkiller. And then you also have some players with a little weird injury thing going on. You got Daniil Hunter's neck going from a tweak to season-ending
Tweak.
surgery. You
Yep.
had whatever happened with Michael Pierce. Dalvin Cook dislocates his shoulder, runs back onto the field, seemingly the very next play. Were you
Sharif
surprised that
Floyd.
they let him go? Yeah, Sharif Floyd. They botched his surgery. So
Mhm.
maybe this wasn't as surprising at all, Adam.
Um, yeah, I think stuff's gonna come out. I think we're already seeing that. I think right before we went on, former Viking Fetty Odenabo tweeted out that actually, you know what? Let me pull it up because I don't want to put any words in his mouth. But Fetty Odenabo, former Vikings defensive end, tweeted out in response to Ben Gessling's reporting of the Vikings moving on from Eric Sugarman. He said, Eric Sugarman was not a good man. So, whatever narrative you guys think of him, it's been fabricated. Oh, okay. So I'm gonna expect that more is probably gonna come out about, some of the things that went on while Sugarman was there. You did mention that, he was there when Teddy's leg, blew up and everything. So I'm sure Teddy's thankful that he was there. He probably did a bunch of good things, but there was a lot of things that he probably didn't do that well either. Feeding donuts to players before every game, in the donut club. That's so much sugar. No, but I think I'm not surprised because this is a regime change. This is a culture change. Nobody's job is safe. It doesn't matter how long you've been with the organization. I expect a lot more changes to come after the draft, because that will typically be the Vikings can bring in their own scouting staff and stuff after that, and there might be some more front office changes as well. Just shifting. There's a reason why Spielman and Zimmer were fired. It's because whatever they were doing wasn't working. So uh, Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah and Kevin O'Connell, if they're gonna fail doing things their own way, and they're not gonna, fail doing something that someone else wants them to. They have a plan in place, and it's clear that they want to do things their own way. And Sugarman was not a part of those plans, and who knows, maybe something else happened behind the scenes that caused this. But no, I'm not surprised. I'm not going to be surprised by any of moves that probably happen within the next couple months. So, what are your thoughts?
Well, we haven't heard anything about Sugarman in particular, but I would think that NFL trainers are probably the most shadiest people on a coaching staff in most regard. Like if you've
Mhm,
ever seen the movie Any Given Sunday, players are begging to get out. They got contracts with
mhm,
non-guaranteed salaries. Like,
mhm.
it's one of those deals like Dalvin Cook. Like I mentioned, he dislocated his shoulder. Like everybody thought his season was over. And then he's out against the Steelers. I think he missed a game in between there because there was a Lions game. So he gets hurt against the
Mhm.
Niners. Everybody thinks he gets carted off the
Yeah,
field,
yeah. Everyone's
misses
like,
the
"Oh,"
Lions game.
everyone came onto
Yeah.
the field like his arm
Yeah.
fell off.
Yeah. Like he just had his arm ripped off or something. Everybody came onto the field, wished him well. Next week misses the game against Detroit. Against Pittsburgh, he goes out, has a really good game, but everybody's kind of like, why is Dalvin playing? Like this season's probably over.
Yeah.
And Dalvin played the rest of the season without too many known issues. But there was also a report, and I think it was either Ben Gessling or Chad Graff said this, where, players were afraid to get back to 100% under Mike Zimmer because they thought they would lose their place. They thought that it would hurt their standing within the organization. And I wonder if part of that had to do with the trainer and what they're doing. And I'm kind of recklessly speculating on this, but I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if there was some shady stuff going on behind the scenes. And remember, Mike Zimmer was kind of like, well, the trainers told me this, the trainers told me that. Like,
Mhm.
I think there was a very big disconnect between the training staff and Mike Zimmer. And a lot of us just kind of brush it off as Zimmer's old crusty guy. But I think there might be something to it if Sugarman is let go.
For sure, and you think back to, Anthony Barr earlier this season, how he, sat out a few games because he was having some knee issues, and, would he have done that if he wasn't established, like, he wasn't an established piece of the defense? Because, he's gonna play no matter what. One, he was Mike Zimmer's favorite. That was pretty clear. Him or Harrison Smith, debatable. Um, but, yeah, you look back at that, would he have done that, been able to sit out if he, wasn't in favor of Mike Zimmer or the trainer? Were they doing everything necessary to are they was the training staff doing everything necessary for the players, or were they doing everything necessary to get these guys back on the field? Because there's a big difference. There's a difference between, like, helping these guys stay in the league for as long as possible or getting them ready to play one more game. Like, and I think that's probably what the Vikings want to fix. I think a lot of teams are probably moving in that direction. I think the Rams, where Kevin O'Connell came from, they were known for, keeping a bunch of their guys healthy for the most part, most of the year. Obviously, they had, Robert Woods went down, Odell Beckham, but those are injuries that kind of are preventable or unpreventable. So I'm curious to see what sort of direction they're coming from, because we know that Kwesi Adofo-Mensah's very smart, and he might look at some of the tactics or approaches that Eric Sugarman was using or things that he wanted to do and be like, no, we're not going to do that anymore, and we'll find somebody else who can kind of do things the way that we want them to be done. So, um, I once again have no problem with this move. So, you have
And it might be
anything else? Yeah,
Yeah, it might be something as simple as, when the Timberwolves got sold to Mark Lore and Alex Rodriguez, they interviewed everybody. They
yeah.
interviewed, just to kind of get their feel of the organization. Maybe Kwesi interviewed some people and they're just like, yeah, Sugarman's doing some stuff. So again, we don't know a lot about it. I already probably speculated way too much, but
Not
I,
yet.
I think it's just, yeah, I think it's just one of many changes that are going to be coming here. And we already see Sugarman out the door. We saw several coaches get out the door. They apparently didn't even approach Andre Patterson about coming back. But what other changes do you think are going to be made before this team hits the field again in 2022?
Oh, well, I mentioned the scouting staff. I think a lot of people right now are like, "Oh, they didn't get rid of the scouting staff," but typically the teams, new regime comes in, you keep the scouting staff until at least through the NFL draft, because this group of people has already done so much work, and it doesn't make a lot of sense to bring in a brand new staff with 2 or 3 months to go before the draft, because you basically have to start from scratch, and it's just not a very good idea. So I know I'm thinking they're going to use these guys for this draft, and then I could see some major changes. I think this change with Sugarman signifies that nothing is to be unexpected with this new regime. And the thing with this, though, I like, is that ownership seems to be on board with this. Like, this is a pretty significant move for them to move on from a guy who's been with the team for 16 years. They're willing to listen. They realize things are changing in the league, and this is for the better. And hopefully it was a move that was made just based on philosophy, and not for punishment or anything like that, or hush hush. Because I just read about the Cowboys cheerleaders scandal or whatever that they had, and that's not something that was too great. So hopefully nothing like that. But I once again, I'm not going to be surprised with anyone that moves on, whether it's front office, players. I think they have their coaching staff in place. Um, I think this does say, though, like, guys like Adam Thielen, he's going to stay. He's a Minnesota guy. I don't think that matters anymore. I think they want to move as far away from this last regime, even the one before that, like, as possible. This is a totally different Vikings team, and they're going to do things their own way, and they're going to go down doing things their own way, or succeed doing things their own way. And I like that. It's a bit refreshing, I feel like.
You hinted about the roster, and that's what I had on my outline.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
The roster is probably going to be the one thing that changes the most, because Luke Braun of Locked On Vikings tweeted this out. He's like, okay, so you're changing the coaching staff, you're changing the training staff, you're changing the front office, you're changing this, you're changing that, you're changing the color of the walls, you're changing the lighting in the building or whatever, but you're leaving the roster alone.
Yeah, keep Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, keep Kirk Cousins at $45 million. Like, this thing's going to be wild, man. Like, honestly, in the next week and a half, this roster is going to be blown up with a stick of dynamite. And that brings us to our next talker. I wish we had a sounder for this, but it's time to check down with Kirk Cousins. And this doesn't start in Minnesota. This starts over in Green Bay with another quarterback who may or may not be available. Aaron Rodgers is getting his Zen or his Panchakarma or whatever, trying to be master of the universe or whatever's going on there. But according to Pro Football Talk's Mike Florio, he's got his choices set to 4 teams in 2022, which is interesting because he's not a free agent, but oh well. He's got it down to the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Tennessee Titans, the Denver Broncos, and the Packers. And he said it's not a matter of these teams or the Packers. This is a matter of any of these 4 teams. So my first question is, what effect do you think Aaron Rodgers has on Kirk Cousins' availability?
I don't know. I thought about this because I don't think the Vikings should be making decisions based on whatever Aaron Rodgers does. I think they should already have a plan in place with what they want to do. I'm sure the Broncos or the Steelers not getting Aaron Rodgers would help the Vikings move Cousins to one of those teams, but I'm not so sure that Cousins is their backup plan. I think, especially with the Steelers, as much as it seems like it's a good fit, I think the Steelers are smart enough to realize that, one, Kirk Cousins is not worth the amount of money that he's going to get paid next year, or the amount of money that he wants. They would rather, invest some time into developing a younger quarterback, whether it's this year or next year. And they realize that they can probably get things done with a quarterback who doesn't cost as much, and they can improve their roster with the other money that they have. And I feel like Mitchell Trubisky's been a name that's thrown around a lot this last week. I feel like that might have been some agent influenced reporting where, Mitchell Trubisky is the hot name this summer. He's going to get starter quarterback money. I'm like, okay, is this a Adam Schefter like Mr. Editor, tweet going on? Because if anyone's watched Mitchell Trubisky, they could easily say, like, what are you talking about? But with Kirk Cousins, I'm starting to think like the Vikings first they wanted to get him probably give him an extension, like a shorter extension that would lower the cap hit. And it's clear Kirk Cousins doesn't want to do that. He wants, whatever 40 million or higher. He doesn't want to do team friendly. We'll just say that. And then so number 2 would be to trade him. And from everything that came out of the combine, doesn't sound like there's too many teams interested in him because of his cost. And number 3 is just to let him run out the final year of his deal. And that would mean he goes to free agency in 2023. And I have no problem with that because at this point, it's like, okay, Kirk, you think you're worth this much money. Why don't you go find out in 2023 how much teams are willing to pay for a 35-year-old quarterback who's has one playoff win in his career and is a 500 quarterback. Go find out and see if you can make 40 million a year because you're not going to. So I think he's in for a rude awakening when if the Vikings let him run his contract out, which I think right now seems to be the favorite, I would say. But trading him and then extension last. But I don't think Aaron Rodgers' decision is going to have too much an effect on Kirk Cousins because if you didn't have your heart set on Kirk Cousins already, then you probably won't have your heart set on him if Aaron Rodgers, turns you down. So that's my thought.
I'm trying to think after you mention it, like who would be the quarterbacks that are available and would be better than Kirk Cousins. Maybe some of the teams that are looking for a quarterback are thinking draft. And we'll talk
Yeah.
about those
Yep.
prospects a little bit later because the quarterbacks had a pretty good weekend overall, I
Yep.
would say. But, if they're looking for an established mercenary type guy, I think Russell Wilson is way ahead. I know Pete Carroll said, hey, we're not trading him, but
No
I
intention.
mean, yeah, no intention of trading. We have no intention of trading Percy Harvin. We have no intention of trading Stephon Diggs. We have no intention of trading anyone. That is until somebody offers us a first round pick, in which case Kwesi should just say, yes, we will take that. Thank you very much. We'll figure out quarterback later. I think with this whole situation, Matthew Collar was at the scouting combine, which is basically just like loose lips sink ships times a billion.
For sure.
Because from what I was told, there's a whole bunch of scouts that are there to do their job. And then there's a whole lot of people standing around and just having fun. Like that's how it was presented to me.
Radio
So,
people.
Yeah, radio people,
Reporters,
bloggers, TV people, all that stuff.
Agents
Just
and general
standing.
managers.
Yeah. Declan Goff, a Score North, actually likened it to baseball's winter meetings, which I think is a really good analogy because a lot of agents talk, they kind of mingle, they don't really tamper. It's like, hey, it's
Isn't
like
that when
how
isn't
Sean
that when
McVay
A-Rod's
ran into Matthews. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
you go. No, isn't that when A-Rod's like first big contract happened, like with the Rangers? Wasn't that?
Yeah.
Didn't that come out of winter meetings? I feel like that's where it came out of. But yeah, you were mentioning what Sean.
Well, it's a
Matt.
lot like Sean McVay running into Matthew Stafford in Cabo. Just like, hey, we were just
Running
at
around.
a cabana, and all of a sudden he was at the cabana next to us, and we're like, hey, aren't you Matthew Stafford? He's like, aren't you Sean McVay? And then we talked football for 10 hours. It was so weird, you just get into a conversation and you lose each other over some Mai Tais and stuff. Yeah, I mean, with Cousins, it's just like A, who wants him, and B, like, do the Vikings want to pay him? And I mean, Collar was saying he thought that Cousins is going to play his final year and play through it. And if that happens, like somebody's gonna go. Like, there's
More
no
than
way
somebody.
this roster can stay. Yeah, there's
more
some
than
bodies,
somebody.
like several people. Like it might just be like it's kind of like when James Bond gets kidnapped and they like tie him up and they, maybe he's like in a stretch machine, like the one that Kyler Murray used to get to 6 feet. And they're like, okay, Mr. Cousins, you can either take this pay cut or we're going to cut Adam Thielen. And he like spits on him and they like do the thing and he gets stretched out and Thielen gets cut. And he's like, all right, now we're going to cut to Neil Hunter. What do you think of that? and he's like, "You're gonna have to kill me," or like something cool like that. I don't think Cousins would like have
I
that
hope
in
not.
him. He'd
Yeah.
just be like, but
I did. I
that's how I
listened
see
to
it.
I listened to an old interview with Kirk Cousins. I think it was on like Bussin' with the Boys the other day. It was from like 2019. It's with Will Compton and Taylor Lewan. Uh, it's from on Barstool or something. And they were asking him what he would do to win a Super Bowl, and they talked about what Mike Vrabel said he would do. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, where he would cut off
Yeah,
certain something.
yeah.
Kirk Cousins said, "No, I wouldn't do that." And then they asked, "Would you punch like 3 babies in the face to win a Super Bowl?" And he said, "No, I wouldn't do that either." And I'm like, "What? Come on." Um, but my point is like, just I don't know what my point is actually, but and you mentioned Kyler Murray, that made me think of, I was listening to another podcast the other day where somebody was saying that the Cardinals don't want to give Kyler Murray a new contract because he's too short, and I was like, what? I don't think that's factoring into it at all. But yeah, okay, Kirk Cousins. Yeah, I think they should go to him, be like, okay, this is your last year with the Vikings, no matter how good you do, because to keep you, we got to get rid of a lot of people. So, uh, you know, be happy that you're getting your money this year, but a lot of people are going to be mad at you because we got to say goodbye to a lot of people that we could have kept, but because you want to get paid, then they have to go. So this is your choice. Enjoy your money, and we'll talk to you next year. Okay, that was good talk. But yeah, I don't know what more you can do. I wrote something today about like some dark horse teams that could try and trade for Kirk Cousins. I mentioned the Dolphins because they just have a ton of cap space, and the Mike McDaniel Kyle Shanahan connection. I mentioned the Lions just because uh, I think they have 3 first round picks, or 2 or 3. They have the 32nd one, and if the Lions were like, "Hey, we'll give you first round, or we'll give you a first round pick, but you have to take Jared Goff for Kirk Cousins," and I think the Vikings would be like, "Yeah, that's fine," because Kevin O'Connell worked with Jared Goff in 2020, and they were okay. It also saves the Vikings, I believe, like 25 million in cap space. It's also in the division, but at the same time, it's the Lions, and then it's Kirk Cousins. But he's from Michigan. Maybe he wants to finish there. I don't know. These are just random teams, and I picked the Eagles too, just because they're just known for making crazy uh, quarterback decisions. But then I was thinking too that there could Kirk Cousins. I don't believe he's going to be the Vikings quarterback. You can't guarantee it until week 1 because it could be a Sam Bradford scenario where Teddy Bridgewater, not Teddy Bridgewater, but somebody gets hurt and somebody's like scrambling for a quarterback, like they had all these high hopes for next season, and they're like, "Well, what about Kirk Cousins?" And then the Vikings are like, "Well, give it to him, first round pick," and they're like, "Okay." So I could see that scenario happening too, but right now, you know, they cannot give him an extension. No extension. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Would you Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think extension's like the lowest
Yeah,
desired
it's got to
outcome
be,
for
especially
me.
because he doesn't want a discount, or not even a discount, but
No.
just like more years to help out. Like, you can get paid, just help the team out, but he doesn't want
And
to
I
do that.
mean, like from a statistical standpoint, like if we were just talking stats, pay him. If stats
Yeah.
won games, sure. And to a degree they do. But I mean, for the most part, it's the person that Kirk is. It's the selfish, I'm not going to call timeouts or, getting in a pissing contest with Mike Zimmer over the vaccine or just
Mhm.
some of those little things they just doesn't have. And I mean, they're again, it doesn't make him a terrible, horrible person. I'm sure Kirk's a great guy. Like
Canceling his
just
football camp. God.
canceling his football camp,
Yeah.
managing his
No.
Netflix subscriptions to the penny,
You
taking a
think he
light
has?
rock
You
out
think
every
he has his
morning.
own? I don't think he has his own Netflix or not prescription subscription. He definitely either has like his brothers or his parents. He does not
He
have
has
his own
somebody
Netflix.
else's password.
He for
Like
sure does.
that's a very
He
good point.
he
If he
for
drives an
sure
Astro
does.
van, he probably shares all the subscriptions. Like he doesn't have cable. He just bums off of everybody. Hey man, you got that Peacock password? I want to watch
He
The
might
Office.
even be on like a 3-month free trial for everything and just make a new email address for everyone so he can keep getting it. Yeah, he definitely does not have his own Netflix subscription. No way.
Well, if the Vikings want to get rid of Cousins, they're going to need a new quarterback. And that could happen at the NFL scouting combine or excuse me, in the NFL draft. I'm just all
Yeah.
over the place today. I apologize. But in the NFL draft, I'm flustered now. Let's rewind here.
Kirk Cousins got you.
If the Vikings want to get rid of Kirk Cousins, they will have to draft a quarterback. And there's an important step on that road at the NFL scouting combine. Okay, now we're humming. This weekend, we talked about it a little bit. You said you didn't watch too much of it. I probably watched a little bit less of it, but there were still some takeaways from what I saw. Again, a lot of people there. Ian Rappaport reported a dog took a dump in the middle of the Indianapolis Convention Center, which is interesting. But on the field, I think Malik Willis is the biggest needle mover in this quarterback class.
He did not take a dump on the field.
He definitely did not. In fact, he helped out a homeless person on the street, and his agent might have recorded that, but that's here nor there.
I've been wanting to say that on Twitter, but I don't. Also, people also know that I'm like sort of a cynic, where like I can look out for the worst. I look for the worst in people sometimes, and everyone was like, "Oh, he's such a great person." And I looked at the person who posted, and I'm like, Adidas marketing rep, and I'm like, is this real? But then I'm like, who cares? Like, I don't really care if it's real or not, because who cares? It's whatever. That's not gonna vault him to like the top 3 pick if he's given homeless people clothes.
What if Bo Callahan had given a homeless person a shirt before Sonny Weaver Jr. traded down, or took Vontae Mack first? That's what happened first, and then he traded back up. Gave 3 second rounders for number 5 overall pick. Let's have Kwesi try that and see what happens.
I saw that and I was just like, okay, all right, great. This is you can do a lot of things these days in the age of technology and social media. So I'm always, if it's genuine, sure, but it was conveniently. Oh, look, he's there. Oh, look, it must be Malik Willis. Like, how did you know that was Malik Willis? You're sitting behind the window there. Whatever. I don't really care. Again, but yeah, Malik Willis. He looked pretty good out on the field. Had some deep bombs. Maybe the receivers. I don't know if it was the receivers' fault for sometimes not catching them, or he overthrew him. But he's got an arm. I think that's what came out of it the most, is he's got a pretty serious arm. We already know about his mobility. What else? But Kenny Pickett's got like the world's smallest hands. Apparently, smaller than I actually measured my hands, and they're smaller than his hands. So I can't really talk. But I'm also not, quarterback, or would I be? Because apparently I wouldn't be able to hold on to the ball. But I think you look at Malik Willis, Kenny Pickett. You mentioned what? Did you mention Sauce Gardner? I think he's
a corner.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but he had a good
you're
weekend.
Talking overall. Okay.
Overall, yeah. I'm moving on overall, because cornerback is something the Vikings are probably gonna look at closely in the first round. Surprise, a position they never consider in the first round. So they're gonna try corner maybe this year. And Sauce Gardner is the consensus actually on NFL mock draft database. Sauce Gardner is the consensus Vikings pick. And then of course you have Jordan Davis, who I think you were going to mention, who at 348 pounds ran a 40 in 4.78 seconds, which is insane that a guy that size can move that fast. I don't know if it's more scary than insane, but or incredible. I think it's a little bit of everything. Then you had, Iowa State running back Breece Hall, I think, had a good showing. there, and I think running back, like I mentioned in previous shows, is a position group to keep an eye on with Dalvin Cook being more tradable next year and Alexander Madison being a free agent. Of course, you had Ohio State receiver Chris Olave, who had a great 40 time. He had great numbers at Ohio State. I'm not even sure if he's going to be around though when it comes time for the Vikings to make their pick in the first round. And then you had Virginia tight end Jalani Woods, who also had himself a good combine. But at the same time, I don't put too much weight into the combine. You know, especially with skill position players, I'd rather look at guys who've been more consistent on the field and show up on tape rather than how high can you jump in your underwear or how fast you can run. So combine's cool, but I don't at this point I don't even think it's really about the prospects. It is about like the tampering at this point.
Yeah. It's an event, is what it is.
Yeah.
And they found a way to get fans involved. Like there was cheering at the combine, which was super weird. Like watching the highlight,
Not supposed to do
Malik
that.
Willis threw a moon ball, and like people are like, yeah, and I'm just like, what? Like, why are people here? Like the most fun about this draft process is that people will find ways just to pick apart the smallest prospect, and like Malik Willis. The big notion was, oh, well, he played at Liberty or whatever. Then all of a sudden he starts throwing now he's
played
throwing passes.
He played at Auburn too, right?
Well, I'm getting to that point because that's the other thing. That was something I heard. They're like, well, he transferred from Auburn because Jared Stidham was there. Like, what a loser. And it's just like everybody transfers now. If they don't play within the first year or so, like everybody transfers. I came up with a list, and this is just off the top of my head. These are just some of the quarterbacks that have transferred and become starting NFL quarterbacks and decent. Joe Flacco won a Super Bowl, by the way. Transferred from Pittsburgh because Tyler Palko was there. And then he wound up at Delaware. Baker Mayfield was at Texas Tech, transferred to Oklahoma. I mean, things aren't going well for him, but hell, he's all right.
Number one pick.
Kyler Murray. Yeah, Kyler Murray. You may have heard of him. Another number one overall pick. Texas A&M to Oklahoma. Jalen Hurts also transferred from Alabama to Oklahoma because Tua Tagovailoa was there. Justin Fields transferred from Georgia to Ohio State. And once he got there, the backup at Ohio State transferred. And do you know what his name was? Joe freaking Burrow. So like, I mean, they'll make up anything they can. Like, Kenny Pickett has small hand. Like, to me, it's not about the measurements. It's not about any of that stuff. It's, confirming what we kind of know and marrying the two together. Because Dalvin Cook had an absolutely crap combine when he came out. And yet his game wasn't related to those skills that he wasn't good at. He didn't need speed. He's a one-cut running back. If he's got enough burst up the middle to go the distance, he'll be a good running back. And look what happened. Kenny Pickett, every time I watch him, I go, like he's super accurate and everything. And I mean, he wears the gloves. He's got the small hands. Some people
little Mac Jones
give him the Teddy label.
Mac Jones-esque. Just he's okay. He doesn't blow you away, but
people crapped all over Mac Jones because he put up too good of stats. Oh yeah, he's got receivers everywhere. How do you expect that? Joe Burrow threw 60 touchdowns, and he still went number one. Like nobody crapped on him, and there probably was still some internet nerd going, well, actually, Joe Burrow's hands, they're only 9 inches long, and it's like that. Like, shut up.
Yeah, I don't think what's his face? I don't think it's not Chase. Yeah, not Justin Chase. What's his name? Jamar Chase. I don't think Jamar Chase cares how big. Yeah. Remember he couldn't catch. And then he went to win on the Rookie of the Year.
Sorry.
Broke the rookie receiving record. Yeah, he sucks.
There are probably some people that are just like, Justin Jefferson didn't play the first 2 games. He can't be good. He's got to be struggling. BC Johnson taking over, man. Like, I
don't think I'm ever gonna forgive Mike Zimmer for that. I don't think so. Like, he's done a lot of bad things, but to not start Justin, I understand it's like you have Diggs and Thielen still. You want to start those 2 guys, but it was BC Johnson. Like, what was Justin Jefferson not doing in practice to be better than BC Johnson. Like, even so, he's a first round pick. Come on. Like, I understand you want to like humble rookies and stuff, but this guy clearly is already one of the best receivers in the league, and you didn't play him. Did they lose both those games? I feel like they lost both those games too, right?
They did. They lost to
Yeah.
Green Bay and they lost to Indianapolis.
Yeah. They got killed by Indianapolis.
That was a
Yeah.
bad game.
Yeah.
They got killed
It
by the Packers too.
this time
But
is weird because and I think it's picked up more with, like, social media and stuff, with, like, all these random reports about little things about prospects and how they do this and how they don't do that, and it's I don't know if it's, like, agents trying to position their players to get them higher up on the draft board, like, is Malik Willis's agent conspiring to get Kenny Pickett lower on the draft board so he can be the first quarterback, and I wish I was joking, but I could totally see that being the case, and I'm sure it probably actually is. But yeah, these are all weird things we hear about. Like I think the other top defensive end in this class, what Thibodeau, somebody said like I heard some weird report about him like not being like the Jaguars didn't like him for some reason. Yeah, like he's like not a team player or something. I'm like, this is he's not even in the league yet. Like you don't know anything. But yeah, I don't like the drills. I don't like the combine. I don't even know if draft people really do. Like they like the measure. I think they like the measurements more than they do the actual like drills. I think that's what most people are there for in the injury stuff and measurements. Is so and so actually 6'4" or is he 6'2"? Which sometimes, a lot of the time actually, turns out to be the case where your college listing not not even really close to what you actually are, and it's kind of funny sometimes. But I like the combine for all the news that comes out, like the rumors that we've been hearing about from the press conferences and everything, and that's what I like it for. Because this is when Diggs wasn't going to be traded, and he gets traded. Mike Zimmer doesn't want an expensive quarterback. The Vikings signed an expensive quarterback. So, based on the past, Kirk Cousins is getting traded because just go with the opposite of everything that happened in the past. But yeah, what are your like impressions of the combine? Is there like anyone that really stood out to you that you're like you want to pound the table for? I think you mentioned somebody when we were in your outline or whatever before we were talking that you would like the Vikings to trade up for, who's not a quarterback.
yeah, and that would be the corner back
Yep.
that you mentioned. I love Sauce Gardner. I love the name. I
What
don't
kind of
even know
sauce
what
is
his
he?
real name
Yeah,
is.
what kind of sauce? What kind of sauce is he? Is he
I'm
hot
thinking it's
sauce?
hot sauce.
Marinara sauce?
Marinara,
No.
you know, this is a good question because
Alfredo
I don't think
sauce?
he'd be like Mac sauce would be a little bit tangy and kind of whatever. Marinara sauce, I don't know. That's just kind of basic. Alfredo, little cheesy. I think hot sauce.
Yeah,
If
for
he's
sure.
got that, because he's got that flash. Like
You remember
he
that?
looks like a star in
Did you
my
watch
eyes.
those and one mixtapes? Did you ever watch Hot Sauce, the basketball player?
Yes.
And he'd
Yes,
like,
when
yeah.
Stephon Marbury was rocking the
Oh
N1s when
yeah.
I was
Oh
in
yeah.
grade school, and
I used to watch
they
those.
had the big guy, yeah,
There was like an
it's
ESPN
like,
reality show for the mixtape tour or whatever. I used to watch that. And, that was huge during the day, and I'm totally dating myself right now.
come on, Sauce, quit holding
Yeah,
Sauce,
yeah.
quit.
He's a
Oh,
legend. He's a legend. Hot
He's-
sauce. The
but
professor.
Sauce
Remember the
Gardner,
professor?
yes,
Sorry,
wasn't Jason Williams on there too?
no, no,
Or is
no, 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 no.
he probably could have been though?
He did a lot of
Like
he did a
after
lot of the things that they did, but he was a little too polished to be on the N1 mixtape tour.
it's like Little League where they like move guys up like a grade because they're too
Yeah,
good. Just
yeah,
like, all right, little Timmy, like you're big
yeah.
Timmy now. You're gonna play with the fourth graders.
So he's hot sauce.
Yes, he is hot sauce. And they asked him, they said, hey, uh, what are you gonna do if you give up a touchdown in the NFL? Because he hadn't given one up in college. And he's like, I have no plans of giving up a touchdown in the NFL, which I love. He's gonna give one up. I absolutely, but I mean, the guy He's oozing charisma. He looks like a star. And last time I checked, the Vikings need corners like so bad, which is ridiculous because they took corner like 3 years in a row in the first round of the draft. Like, and somebody brought this up, like the whole video where the Vikings were giddy that Justin Jefferson fell to them. Mike Zimmer's first words were, "Well, what about the corners? Like, we're gonna get a corner." And like Rick's like, "Shut
Really?
up, Mike."
No,
Oh
I
yeah,
didn't even know. I didn't even notice.
yeah, because he's like, "You think we still get a corner at
Oh, I'm gonna
25 or
I'm gonna
whatever?"
I'm gonna have to watch that. I did not notice that. I'm gonna have to see
And then
that.
they traded, and I think they traded down from
They did.
25 to get
They did,
more
yeah.
picks. So I'm sure like Zimmer is just like, "What about the corner, man? What about the
Yeah, yeah,
corner?"
yeah.
Like, I don't know. They could have traded down to 44 and just got Antoine Winfield Jr., but that's another
Mhm.
discussion.
Yep.
They need one. They need one. And
Yep.
I mean, to patch the secondary up with a whole bunch of band-aids just isn't going to help. So, I mean, if you are going to trade up for a non-quarterback, I would say Sauce Gardner is the guy because he can shut down some of the top guys. And we're projecting here, obviously. He could come in as a rookie and be complete trash for all we know.
Mhm.
But I mean, he's got the skill set. He's got true shutdown skills. And I think he's safer than a guy like Darryl Stingley, who sat out the 2020
Yep.
season, who was injured last season and just didn't look like the same guy. I think he shut it down early, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, I would rather go for a guy like Sauce Gardner, who was in there and held his own with Jameson Williams before he tore his ACL. Like, I think Sauce Gardner's the premier prospect. The other guy that I'm really liking, especially after last weekend, is Jordan Davis. And you're like, okay, Zimmer, calm down. You already got 2 nose tackles. Well, one of them is probably getting cut because
For
that's
sure.
Michael
For
Pierce.
sure. For sure.
And
For
you
sure.
need a big dude as your nose tackle in that 3-4. Vita Vea, they don't play a 3-4, but he's a big man. He's a very athletic man, and he can stuff the run. He can get after the passer. He can do a lot of things that Viking defensive tackles haven't done in a really long time. Even if Jordan Davis is only going to play 50% of the snaps, he is going to be a wrecker in the middle of the field. And I would rather have that guy on my team than playing against my team, especially when Garrett Bradbury gets knocked over by the wind. Like, give me Jordan Davis on my team so he can go mess someone up. So, I mean, the guy's a character out of a horror movie, for God's sake. It's insane.
Yeah, I could see him being he feels like a Bears player, right? Like you could see him playing on the Bears. Like he's
Please
totally
no.
yeah, but he does. He just seems like he's Akeem Hicks is probably gone, so they're gonna get somebody to replace him, and I could see that being him. And with Sauce Gardner, he's got like really long arms. I think that's the one thing I noticed about him, which is very essential when you're a cornerback, especially like if you get beat, you can just stick your arm out and poke the ball away. But yeah, his confidence is, lots of corners have confidence, but I think his confidence is more believable than some other guys. A lot of guys can talk, but do they walk? Because someone like Jalen Ramsey, he talks like that. He talks like, you know, he's not going to beat me. Nobody's going to beat me, and 9 times out of 10, he's right. Except when he goes against what's his face, T. Higgins, and he grabs his face mask. But
Falls down in the Super Bowl and
yeah,
thanks to
that's what I'm talking
heaven
about.
somebody
Yeah.
sacked Joe Burrow first.
Um,
Yeah.
did he get beat by Jamar Chase too? Yeah, in the first
Oh,
quarter, he got beat by.
Chase was open, but Burrow got
Yeah,
sacked.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, he reminds me of that. But the thing that only holds me back from the Vikings going after a corner in the first round is I'm just sick of the Vikings drafting corners in the first round. I know it's a need, and I feel like they should try and get a veteran first. I feel like they should try and get a Kyle Fuller or somebody else who can come in, doesn't need a year or two of development to adjust to the speed of the NFL. Because corners, it's a tricky transition from college to the NFL. No matter how good you are, in college, that transition from being a cornerback to the NFL, from college to the NFL is tricky because the rules are much different. You can't touch guys in the NFL like you can in college, and a lot of guys struggle with that. So would rather have the Vikings look for a veteran corner first, and if not, then okay, then try and get Sauce or somebody else.
And I understand what you're saying, but that might have also been a Zimmer thing too. And a lot of that might
Oh
even
yeah,
been picking the wrong guy. Because remember, the Vikings took Trey Waynes over Marcus Peters because he got kicked off
yeah,
the team
yep.
in college. And Marcus Peters stepped on the field and there was no adjustment period. He was one of the best corners in the league immediately. So maybe that will happen with Sauce.
Trey
It's an outlier, but
Trey Wayne's the highest paid player on the Bengals right now, who played on special teams in the Super Bowl. Yep, he's totally getting cut this year. So good thing the Vikings let him go because they weren't gonna. He's not worth the money that he got. But
maybe they'll bring him
unfortunately,
back. I don't know.
let's not do that. I was never of like a. People are like, oh, he's solid. He's great in the run. I'm like, but that's not his job. He's a corner. He's supposed to cover well, and he always gets beat. And if he doesn't cover the guy, then he gets a flag. So, yeah, I was never the biggest Trey Waynes fan. Great guy, but not a fan of his performance on the field.
Well, on that note, we should wrap things up on the Viking Age podcast.
Yeah, we got to
Thank
see
you
what's up
once
with Eric
again.
Sugarman.
Yeah, we got to go. We got to scout the wire and see if anything broke while we were talking.
Yeah.
But until then, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, all that YouTube stuff. Check us out again. We'll be back on the air 6:15 Central Time on Thursday night. For my co-host Adam Patrick, I'm Chris Schad. We'll talk to you later on the Viking Age podcast.